meeting with us.
Yes.
Do you have any comments on this sudden departure?
No comment. Other than I'm not departing far. I'm staying here on the Sunshine Coast. I may come back to haunt these chambers with a different piece of cardboard in front of me. You never know.
Are you planning to pursue a political career?
When's the next election? How much time have I got to prepare?
Oh, you just missed one.
My timing's never been good.
Well, you're not needing to spend more time with the family, for example.
Actually, that is true, but I don't have a huge family. It's just me and Teresa. But yeah, I'll actually be able to have breakfast with my wife, which is something I have not done in many, many years. So I'm looking forward to that.
So if I recall, you were right there at the very beginning of CKY, is that right?
Yep, I am one of 2 original staffers remaining. So we're down to Matt Morris, our afternoon guy, when I leave. But yeah, I was the first and only news director. So we'll see what they come up with to replace me. I haven't met my replacement yet, so I'm not sure.
Well, Sean, we've certainly appreciated the time you've spent with us, and you've always been fair to us, although sometimes you take clips out of context.
You need to start speaking them in context.
Never at a loss for words. We're going to miss you at the top of the local government, and Rotary. Well, maybe you'll still be around to help out with Rotary, I hope.
And hopefully with cable TV too. So
right.
I'm not going as far as you think.
Okay. So this is just really a card with thanks from council. I had asked if we could get you anything, but Ian said we're already on our lines of credit this December. So, no. So there's nothing in there. But I did get you a coveted Town of Gibsons pocket watch, kind of, but battery not included, though. Sean, we really, really do appreciate all you've done here. So I hope we're going to be seeing a lot of you.
And yeah, hopefully if I come back to haunt you, I'll get the matching one. Thank you so much. That was unexpected and entirely unnecessary. It's been a pleasure. It's what I do for a living. So it's work has at least been fun around here, so I've enjoyed it.
Is there any particular story that stands out for you as the highlight of your time? I'll probably give you lots of them.
I've always enjoyed covering the elections. Actually, I've had a few now, so it's fun to be in the thick of it. To watch the decisions get made, the democracy in action, people making their choice. I got a kick out of hosting all candidates meetings. That's always fun. But yeah, it's the election cycles that stand out. Nice to see new people step forward and old people carry on the fight, and old by experience, I should say. But yeah, you've got me on the spot. It's always the tough question I have in job interviews too, and I better brush on it. What story are you most proud of? I don't know.
Yeah, it's when you stick that mic in front of us. Any comments on it?
I know how it feels now. I'm so sorry.
Good. Okay, so with that, we'll call to order this meeting of council, December 1, and just ask for a motion to, actually, before we put the agenda, Councillor Lumley is asked to add one item under new business, which is with respect to the property which the old RCMP building is located on School Road, on our school. O'Shea. Should never forget O'Shea because of the wonderful time we had with traffic calming up there, David.
I don't recall. Viral O'Shea.
Yeah, that was as close as we can to getting lynched. Okay, so with that, one addition, just ask for motion to approve the agenda with that addition. Councillor Valeria, Councillor Sandenko, all in favor? Carried. One set of minutes to adopt, and then just ask for a motion to adopt the first set of minutes, please. Councillor Lumley, Councillor White, all in favor? That's carried. Got one proclamation before I get to that. Welcome, Lynn. We want to have the mic to say a couple of words about Elves Club this year.
I usually need a mic, I'm quite loud anyway. Just want to say thank you very much again for the proclamation. This year we're looking at roughly, well, I'm hoping not, but it looks like maybe 700 families. Last year we did 663. It was 1,522 people fed and 60 pets. So, pardon me, a huge undertaking this year, but we're ready. We had some great deals. Saputo came on as a bit of a supporter this year, so we'll have milk in our hampers. They gave us 700 liters for the price of 200. We're getting pretty good at my corporate bargaining. And we got 50% off our cheese. So we got some good deals. A local trucking company, Triple T Trucking, I think I needed more caffeine, gave us 700 cans of sockeye salmon. So that was a local company here. So we've had some really fabulous stuff. Toy lunch is December 8th, so if anybody wants to buy a new toy and get a free lunch at the Blackfish. Telethon's on the 5th. We're doing a dance on the 12th, and I think it's just going to be a great year, and thank you for this. I'm going out to Seashell tomorrow for them to do the same, and we're hoping to turn this into a huge advertising game, so I hope you'll all be sitting at the senior by the end of December. Thank you again.
Okay, yeah, then, so I do have a proclamation here, which is, whereas every year at Christmas, hundreds of households consisting of men, women, teens, and children are in need on the Sunshine Coast. And whereas the Elks Club has donated food hampers to those in need on the Sunshine Coast from Port Ellen to Egmont since 1972. Now, therefore, I, Wayne Rowe, Mayor of the town of Gibsons, do hereby proclaim that December 7th, 2015 to December 13, 2015 shall be known as Elks Club Week. Thank you very much for the work that you do and the volunteers that work.
And we're going to paint all the traffic light, all that street lights red and green. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Okay, so we have one delegation. Ellen, you're going to speak to us about the Bike Skills Park, and welcome. Thank you for joining us.
So my name's Alan Williams. I'm a local-ish resident. I'm slightly outside the town boundary, but I'm here to have a discussion about the feasibility of a skills park inside the town of Gibsons. And something like this is a pretty large project in terms of all the people and players that would have to get involved. And I sort of want to come to you guys to get a measure of your support and how something like this would fit into the town's plans. What you would need from a group like us to be able to move forward with something like this. So the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit what is a bike skills park, some of the risks, benefits, why in Gibsons we already have something similar, how would it work, and then what steps might be. So Bike Skills Park is basically a controlled place for people to learn how to build their skills. And so it's controlled in the sense it starts at the beginner phase and goes all the way through to expert in a way that riders can expect. And it'll mimic the features that we have in the trails are all around us. So we have trails being built all over the place here, and people are building jumps and skinnies and all these different features that people are trying to get through, and they just appear out of nowhere. And the skills park is a place for people to learn how to use them. So it's a place for children, youth, adults, and a skills park could have many different features. And what I'm sort of thinking about is something that would have a pump track, some dirt jumps, and skinnies. So you can sort of see the picture there. It's a pump track is a continuous loop of berms, the sides and rollers, the bumps. They're designed to be ridden without pedaling, so riders hump through this device. And it's sort of a one-size-fits-all piece of equipment that any skill level can get onto. So, 6-year-olds can be on there with 18-year-olds. next sort of main piece is dirt jumps. So they're similar to the mountain bike jumps we have all over our forests. They're generally designed to launch the rider higher into the air, but not quite as far. They're typically designed for bikes without rear suspension, so they're made up of two basic parts: the takeoff and the landing, which kind of makes sense. They're separate components in something like this. And dirt jumps, when they're put into a skills park, start at the very beginner level where it's very easy and go to the very difficult one. So on this next slide, we have, people can make it out, but on the left-hand side, we have a dirt jump that has a big gap in it. So this is what the experts are eventually doing there. Launching themselves through the air over the gap there. And these are separate. In the background there where it says tabletop, that's same kind of jump, but there's something in the middle so that people can just ride over it. So this is a picture of the Whistler dirt jumps. And on the far right, you can see the beginner line. And on that line, anybody can ride it. A 3 or 4-year-old can sort of roll their push bike over that. And on the one beside it, there's a little bits of gaps. And far left are the expert jumps. So the third piece would be skinnies, and we have skinnies all over our forests, and people are riding over them. And having a skills park with skinnies is just a way for people to learn how to use these things and learn how to improve their balance. And these also have sort of progressive difficulty, so you can start with something quite wide and get down to something skinny, and they can go. So the benefits that I see of having a skills park is the main benefit is just the reason I'm here is because I have a 14-year-old boy who's incredibly passionate about biking, and he's built one of these in our backyard basically, and somehow we should give back more of it in the community. It's a place for people to develop their skills and confidence. It's built in a town. It's got easy access for people, parents and grandparents bring children to. It promotes active, healthy lifestyles. The Sunshine Coast is becoming a sort of a mecca for bike aid in the tourism aspect. One of the things that people don't realize about dirt jumping, I didn't realize until my son was involved in it, is it's something that it's a non-competitive sport for kids. They're not competing with each other together, and it's teach each other how to do things, and a lot of mentorship from older people here. So a skills park comes with all sorts of risks as well. So injuries is the biggest one. Ways that we can try and mitigate. One is to follow the guidelines. There's a number of guidelines out there on how to build something like this. Follow international. Whistler also has a. The next would be signage. So just having very clear signage on how the features should be used and how you can progress through those features. And maintenance. So making sure that it's maintained. With dirt jumps, they need to be constantly maintained. Rolled into the plan is how. Another risk I see is lack of use. In it's a little pump track outside of the town of Seashell. Really get to use that much. One of the reasons are they didn't choose the right soil type, so it's hard. But I also think that they didn't properly engage the end users in building it, and I think that would be an important part of doing this is make kids and the adults that are going to be using something they become engaged and have ownership in it. Another thing is just making sure And then maintenance itself is an issue. You need a certain level of expertise to maintain this thing, so out of engaged and other bike park operators, these kind of parks are popping up all over the lots of sort of other places we could look at. So this is probably the big question: is why do we need one? We have something like this at Rock Kids. We have something sort of similar at. For me, it's just all about the location. As a parent, I'm not, even my 14-year-old, I'm not really that comfortable letting him go out of town to potentially a place where he's buy and sell. It's a totally different environment having it in town. And I guess the other thing about having it in town is that it's more visible to people, and Rock Kids, the trails get a lot of use, but the park doesn't get as much. So the Sunshine Coast is becoming a mecca for biking, and our kids are growing up around this. We have per capita probably the largest number of professional riders in the world. Rider in the world, and he lives just out here and in his house. Bikers. We have a large community here hiring our kids, and we can potentially lean on a little bit to get expertise. We also have a growing number of sites. So we have Sprott Kids, and we have B&K Trails, Seashell, Half Moon Bay Trails, and these are trails that are being built constantly. So more. Coast Gravity Park that you're aware of, and this trail is one of the best mountain biking parks. Have the Powell River Skills Park. So there's a lot of things going on in this. So, assuming there was some kind of support diagram to illustrate how I could sort of see something, or anything could really happen, I think a site would have some level of vertical. Nice if it had access to water. One place that keeps coming up, land behind the Gibson School. That's your decision. And then if when we get past the site selection stage, I think to get experts involved in this, and so these could be hired or volunteers. So the volunteers may be some locally, or hired like Jay Hoop. We figure out what the plan was, come up with a budget at the same time, start the process back here and begging here. Materials back again, present to town, more finalized plan, talk through some of the immediate. So that's the quick spiel, and I guess what I'm hoping for, how does this fit into the town? And could it fit into the town? As what would the next step?
Okay, thank you, Mel. Do you have any questions or clarification on area behind the pool there actually used to have a horse ring, and actually at one point it was used as a riding ring there, but there were issues around that, as I recall, why that had to end as well. And I think at one point too, I know that Director of Planning had some property under the hydro lines up towards the road or something like that, if I recall. But you can't build anything under the hydro lines anyway. But yeah, it's I'm not quite sure what to suggest to you. I mean, you basically open the door to something that you would see would be beneficial to the youth in the area. And you know, we certainly don't have any specific plans around something like that at this point. Don't really know where we would go with this. If it's going to be pursued any further, it would be some kind of outline of what the possibilities are and what the requirements for the town would be, and raise the issues of risk and that sort of thing. That was actually one of the issues around the one, I think, under the hydro lines at one point as well. Councillor Sanjanko.
Thank you. Like what you presented tonight was concept, right? A dream. I think before I could say if I've got support for it or not, it just needs a little bit more legs to it. And that's probably things you're already working on, but it's just showing that there is community partner support, either that business or other organizations. I mean, obviously the talent and the people are here, so are they in support of something? It makes sense in that it's a skills training spot to utilize the other assets and like and just the other part of that would be to see the support around it, but also just that maybe have been done with the other places that set up something like this. Like I'd like to know how Powell River did it. So just finding the land is like it's a challenge, but it's funding and that those pieces and insurance, volunteers and burnout and all of those things kind of come to mind. So what you presented is a concept, and I'd be interested to see more behind it. Start hunting around. So that's just some input from me.
Thanks for the information so far. Talking about attracting young families and fitness and active transportation and these things like that's a really there's a lot of positives. Vero mentioned parallels and local land, and I'm just wondering if anything to add around whether this has been looked at before in the parallel with the skate park next to the rec center.
Yeah, the land behind the swimming pool, we've had a couple of requests recently. There was one request for skating rink as well. It's a crucial piece for our storm drainage infrastructure, and it's part of development cost charges study right now in the stormwater system upgrade, so that specific site is directly connected to that piece. We haven't looked at other sites outside of more specifically to your question, the skateboard park is within the town's side of the park up there, the Brothers Park. Certainly, we could have a conversation with the director of parks and follow up with Alan as well, just to have a chat and see if we've looked at other sites and how Parks and Rec has looked at that. So just a way to see if we can add more into it.
Okay, so I think the main thing is staff will have a chat with you at some point on that, but also what Councillor Sanjanko alluded to is you really got to get some momentum behind it to be able to Councillor White?
Probably one of the reasons the curious delegation is and I'd love to see with the local government economic development effort, having a number of meetings, including with mountain biking a lot. That's what I've been wanting to for families, and or it's been directly identified opportunities for families. Experts whose names were listed. To be part of that momentum.
All right, well, here's your contact.
It's the sort of balancing. Not a chance, then doing that, but if there is. Really what I was here for.
It's
All right.
not friendship.
You shouldn't say that. Okay, thank you, Alan.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Any inquiries before we move on? So, Jenny, there's a card behind you there.
Excuse. Have I got it on? Yeah. Excuse my croaky voice. I'm Donna and I live in Gibsons, and I've been listening to this presentation, and it would take quite a bit to get me out to a bike park. But if I could see my little nephews out there learning, and they would have learned when I was working in the schools. But I did notice when the kids were learning to skateboard and there's other things, they would always be saying, look at me, look. And so I think that if we get the grandmas out, and they're not going to, for me, I think it would be fun, wonderful to watch. I think it would be something that would get me out, that I wouldn't get, that would get me out. That's what I'm trying to say. It takes a lot to get me to go to them. But I watched my little nephew when he was learning, and I was just amazed at how good he is at 4, 3. He had a walking bike, and they learn so fast, and they're just so, I don't know, they get excellent at it.
Great, okay, thank you, Donna. Okay, just moving on to 8.1.1, just a motion to receive the minutes from the committee of whole from November 17th, please. Councillor Sanjanko, Councillor White, all in favor? Carried. 8.1.2, just motion.
Recommendations.
Sorry, what was that, Councillor?
Recommendations in there.
You talking about street name signs?
Yeah, that one.
So, yeah, so 8.1.2, so the staff instructed to use black lettering on yellow background for all future improvement street name signs, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so,
that's one. Okay, I'm looking at it. Sorry.
I got the paper one.
Yeah.
It's never wrong.
The numbers are right. It's just the
Okay. Yeah, so this one, it basically, just for very quick background, the staff had looked at other potential options for using different coloring on street signs, and committee of the whole here, the recommendation that came out of it was to just stay with what we've got now in terms of the color. So, that's what the recommendation is for. So do we have a mover of that now? Councillor White, okay, Councillor Sanjanko, any further discussion? All in favor? Yeah. That's carried. Okay, 8.1.3, so this one.
Did you ask for the?
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, yes, I should have known. Okay, carried, Councillor Lumley opposed. 8.1.3, so this is a recommendation to bring back a report to this council meeting. But there's not actually a report somewhere, so we're really dealing with it at this point, I assume. Well, it's not on the agenda anywhere else, though, right? So, so I guess we may as well deal with it at this point. All right. So first of all, there's no report from staff, right? Is there on there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a quick update perhaps. We've contacted the museum to start work on a list of newer names perhaps with some backgrounds to it. We haven't been able to make that much speed just yet, so it's still a work in progress. I understand there's also maybe some suggestions from within council that we can look at today. It would be helpful for our immediate needs, which are 3 names, and then down the road we could continue to work on a larger addendum.
As I said, when we discussed, come up with some names, and I did get in touch with them. I've got 3 names I could suggest. I actually 5, but during the family issues and one was actually requested. It turns out I went family members that Linder. That's one of that's a name of a Finnish family that settled here in about 1905, and they were years in the Finnish community. Gibsons, normal family in Gibson. There are a few prominent Finnish museum identified right away that these Finnish names in that part of our history is Linder, and another recommendation board is for Trower, and that's the name of Peter Trower, who's probably the most successful writer who's lived on the Sunshine Coast and grew up on the Sunshine Coast. He won the George Woodcock Lifetime Achievement Award, Canadian Authors Association Award for Poetry, and he's in the BC Writers Walk of Fame for his poetry. He was an ex-logger, and he wrote a lot about. He's probably maybe the world's premier logging poet. He retired from logging and started writing poetry about his logging. Wrote 3 novels as well. And he lived in the town for a long time and grew up in Fort. Thirdly, I suggest Goddard, and that is our first female mayor, Lorraine Goddard, mayor of the town 1980 to 1984, and has just contributed. I think anybody would be very hard pressed to find anyone who's contributed more volunteer hours to this town. There are many others in town as well, but organizations like Harmony Hall, Sunshine Coast Museum and Archives, and the Sunnycrest Merchants, and the Chamber of Commerce, and I think and Lorraine's still active, and it would be a wonderful thing to be able to recognize her. I'd suggest Linder, Trower, and Goddard.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else come up with any other names you want to consider at this point? Anybody have any issues with any of those names that are being suggested by Councillor White? No? So you want to move the recommendation and the resolution for the names? You're moving the recommendation there, and also that the the three street names that staff is requiring at this point be assigned as Willender, Trower, and Goddard. Andre?
Just want to comment that two of these candidates are still alive, and part of our policy is that we need to contact family or the people themselves, I guess, to get some input. So just to keep it in mind, that especially with people that are still alive, probably need to check with them first before we confirm the names, perhaps.
Yeah, and I believe that Councillor White has in fact been in touch with these people, but thank you for pointing that out. Because, yeah. Okay, let's move to the second. Councillor Sanjanko, all in favor? Carried. Gibsons signed by law, so motion to seek input and that report back. So, yes,
Sorry, in regards to the last item.
oh, sorry.
One thing that's being left hanging a little bit is the policy, and it wasn't, that wasn't adopted last time it was brought forward as a policy. But there's no indication as to
Right.
whether you wish to adopt it or whether that needs to be brought back or amendments or.
Yeah, I guess we're probably going to have to. I don't have it in front of me now, so I guess we will need to bring it back for a resolution at another meeting, I guess. So can I leave that to you to make sure it gets to an agenda?
Committee or council?
I think it can go straight to council. I think it'll go straight to council. Yeah, because we did have some discussion around it in the committee. I just lost track of it. But thank you. Okay, so yeah, 8.1.4. I think that's straightforward. Just getting input and coming back to us. Okay. Councilor Lumley, thank you. Councilor Sanjanko, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, Peterson Lane development permit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a former character development permit application for lot 25 in Parkland. This is a property, larger property that was initially earmarked for affordable housing. But a couple of weeks ago, council decided that to accept the proposal from the developer to pay $93,000 into our affordable housing reserve fund and clearing that covenant from the property. So today we're just looking at the form and character of the proposed development as a regular form and character permit. And this property is in a cluster zone, which means that several residential units will be on this lot. It's about a quarter acre lot. What is being proposed, you can see it on page 21, 22, at the very end of the report, is one duplex, which is on the corner of Jerusalem Lane and Peterson Lane, and a triplex on the corner of Peterson Lane and Wright Road. The sizes of the units, they range from around 1,300 square feet for the duplex units, and the triplex units are smaller, between 760 and 970 square feet. The Advisory Planning Commission looked at this property proposal in October, and they felt that it was a very good site for affordable housing. Back then, affordable housing was still on the radar for this property, although there was already an indication that cash contribution would be considered. Some of the recommendations that have been followed up on are to differentiate the units with color differences. And there is a proposed color scheme, and there are not outrageous color differences, but kind of subtle ones that have been added since the APC recommendation. The APC also expressed some concern about one section of wall on Peterson Lane. It happens to be the outside wall to a staircase. There's not a lot of windows in there, and the APC suggested to address that, either through changes to the building itself or perhaps for landscaping. And you can see on page 22 on the landscaping plan that there is now shrubs and one tree proposed in that particular location to soften that appearance. The APC also talked about landscaping. We didn't have a landscaping plan in October, but we do have a landscaping plan now. That looks quite good. And finally, the APC did like the affordable character of the housing units. They started to get into a discussion about the cash and yield contribution. They did recommend to build those units rather than a cash contribution. Although I have to say that we didn't have a full discussion about this as council had a couple of weeks later. So it's a bit of a side note because it's not really in the mandate for the APC to advise on that particular topic necessarily. So the APC they supported the former character and also staff. Yeah, we can clearly see that the different design guidelines in our OCP have been addressed. And so this project is here for approval of the development permits for former character.
Yeah, thank you. Peterson Lane, is this the one that we've been getting a lot of some complaints about the roadway itself, the gravel? Because this is the one that has sort of like two paved strips for the tires, and then you've got gravel in between. Is this the one that we've been getting the emails about? And I don't know if you were part of that because mostly it was going to grade, I guess, but there were some concerns about it.
That's if it's not the one we're getting complaints about, it's certainly adjacent to it, and it is regardless in bad shape, even if we weren't getting complaints. So yes, there is an issue for that.
Okay, so this is around what's in between the.
Yes, there was what went in between was permeable concrete, and so it allows water to percolate through and into a drainage pipe below. There was a couple of problems with it. One, that the construction traffic, it's pretty hard to try and keep mud off it, and so once you start getting mud and sand in the permeable concrete, it becomes somewhat impermeable. So that was one issue, and then we're just finding that the permeable concrete just isn't holding up well. I need to discuss with council during budget time to look at other options for paving those center strips instead.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it's not part of this development permit, but it's because it's just going to add more traffic in there. That's kind of why I was asking about it. So that's a discussion we'll have later when you ask us for more money.
Yeah. The director of planning. Clarify. We're talking about government. Market affordable, I think. Affordable housing. And what that difference is between what we.
I have to go by memory here, but the duplex, the going market rate in the subdivision generally there is around between 260 and 280, I believe. Oh, sorry. Yes, 260 to $80,000, which is slightly above what our limit is that we defined 2 years ago of 240,000. The triplex units are cheaper than that. They, even at a market price, I think the developer was kicking around some ideas about the smallest one somewhere just below the $200,000, and the other one's around 210. So yes, definitely market affordable, so to say, without the town having any strings attached to it. And yeah, in that sense, it's a good. It is very beneficial to the community how this works out because we both get a cash contribution, plus we still get some smaller size units built, even though they're regular market units. They are still a type that is not typically being built as part of subdivision.
Okay, so anything further? Councilor Rowe? Okay, second, Councilor Valeria. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Okay, 9.2, Gibsons Public Market, development permit and development variance.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We also have some people from the Gibson Public Market team here, Scott Davis and Stephen Hanneman, the architects, and Julie Reeve. So they're available for questions. Two permits in front of you today. The first one is form a character again, similar to what we just discussed for Parkland. For the Gibsons Public Market, there's an expansion proposed to the current building, and let's see. As part of the development permit on the drawings, you can see what the expansion is. It's mostly to the back of the current building. At the lower floor, there will be the marketplace. On the first floor, there will be space for a cafe and meeting room, but also the Sontag Marine Education Center. And at the very top, there's a small area, the mezzanine, I think is the name for it, for some offices. In figure 2, 3, and 4 in the staff report, they show the proposed character. It's an updated design, following comments from the Advisory Planning Commission. And overall, there's a good fit with our design guidelines, in this case for development permit area number 5, which is specific to the Gibsons Landing. The Advisory Planning Commission discussed this in August. It was a slightly different design, but some of the suggestions that the APC had are now followed up on. The first suggestion was to look at the access points to the building. In the previous design, it wasn't entirely clear where you would enter the building, but in this current design, you can clearly see it at the back on the marina side. There is now a welcome canopy. That's where the entrance is on that side. And at the front as well, a bit more emphasis on where the entry points are. The second recommendation from the APC was with regards to signage for consistency, and also outspoken support for the idea of a roof sign, and in this case a very iconic roof sign. And the idea behind that, I understand from the applicant, is that this is supposed to draw the attention from the water, because some of the people will arrive by water, and that way it should be really clear that there is something to see there and to experience. The third recommendation from the APC dealt with the colors. The color scheme partly had to do with print quality, but also with the color choice. And the colors have been looked at again to create a building that looks attractive, but also blends somewhat in its environment. And that basically is because of the two colors, lighter color on top and a darker color below. With the darker color below, the building somewhat blends in with on the slope. It doesn't stand out as a bigger building. And fourth item that the APC mentioned was that the proposed trail that would connect to the waterfront was one of the things that the APC really appreciated. So the former carriage part is on its own is a good fit, and we recommend that council approves and authorizes that permit. Subject to one thing, there is a landscaping plan in the works. One of the volunteers in the team is working on that. And we're expecting that, I think, later this month or next year. That would be the last piece of the puzzle for this former carriage development permit. Now, the second permit that is discussed in this report is for a range of variances. And I'll quickly summarize them, including some staff perspective on it. There's 5 variances in total. The first one is for the rear setback. So that's the setback on the ocean side. A reduction from 3 to 1.2 meters, which is around 4 feet. And it has to do with the current limitation of the site. If you look at page 13, for example, you can see that there's not a whole lot of site within the property lines. And what you see today as the Gibson Public Market and the landscaping around it is actually already straddling over the property lines. If you really look at where is the property line, most of the landscaping is actually just on the other side of the property lines. So they have to scramble for space, and they're proposing this reduction in the setback to maximize their usable space on site. And staff supports it. In this case, it's located in a parking lot that is town-owned and it's leased to the marina for the long term. So it's not a bad spot to have a rear yard setback variance. The second item is lot coverage, another pre-existing condition. Even today, with the terraces and the pavement in front, there is about 90-95% coverage already in place. And with the changes that with the proposed addition, that's not really changing. It's just building some of the buildings over what is already a paved surface. So the variance also would cover that off properly and say, well, okay, there's an increase from 80% to 95% under the zoning bylaw. The first variance is about the roof sign. Roof signs are allowed currently in our zoning bylaw, but only in C4 and C5 zones, which are our commercial zones down here in the landing area. But this particular property has a different C zone, C6 if I remember right. So there it would not be allowed without a variance. But since the roof sign looks attractive and it is serving the purpose of getting attraction to this site, staff supported that variance. The fourth variance is about parking. With the addition, there's also an increased need for parking. The zoning bylaw looks at that based on floor area. 27 stalls would be required. Currently there are 10 on site already, but the rest is in the area around it. And for the last 2 years, the market has worked with the marina, the neighbors, and they've shared parking in that area, and it has worked well so far. So the staff is supporting that variance as well. So the reduction to 9 stalls on site, not 10, but 9, because there is an idea as part of the landscaping plan to maybe sacrifice 1 stall to create a nicer landscape area right in front on the street side. But that still needs to be tied down if that's possible or not. But the other parking stalls would be required as part of this variance to be directly around it. And some of it is actually on the road at the back. You're actually looking at Bay Road. Doesn't look like a road because it's a parking lot at the moment, but it is a public road. And then finally, frontage requirements. Frontage requirements are something that we require from new development as part of the subdivision bylaw. And as part of that, there's an expectation that development upgrades our adjacent infrastructure. In this case, a road, a sidewalk, bike lanes. That's what the plan is for Garberg Road. The estimated value of those works is $110,000 just for the frontage of the market. And the market has requested a variance on that, mainly because they feel it's expensive. They have to do fundraising and raise community funding for this project, and they feel that they cannot carry that amount. Something we'd like your input on. Obviously, when a developer doesn't pay for their part of the works, then somehow the town needs to find other means to eventually construct those works. In this case, the works are part of a bigger project that at some point needs to happen there. And also I should mention that the road improvements are in our DCC program. So if the market would not contribute anything, 57% of the costs can be covered through DCCs in the future. And then there's a 43% remainder, of course. There are other costs, development costs that the market will pay for, and those include $24,500 for DCCs, and the building permit fee, regular fees, around $16,000. On that frontage, the proposed variance waives those frontage requirements, but we need to have some confirmation from council if you support that. With that, I've explained all the variances to you and the former character. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Okay, do you have any questions, comments, any part of that? Okay, so former character's been through advisory planning commission. They responded to the commission's points, I think, from what you said. So there's that part of it. Variances, there's the five variances that are being requested. So rear setback, lot coverage really, as the director of planning pointed out, doesn't change very much from almost what's there now. Nor does the roof sign. Parking has been dealt with through agreements with the marina, so there's space available, and the frontage requirements. At some point in the future, we'll hopefully be able to get that from some source. It's going to be a bigger project down there, but certainly at this point, if council is supporting the project with the last funding crunch they're trying to get through between now and the new year, probably should not be adding to that burden. But
project, recognizing it, community benefit and funding it, and then
Okay, anything else? If not, then I would just ask for a motion to, one, receive the report, issue the development, the form and character development permit, and the 5 variances that have been requested, and then staff notify the neighboring properties of that, right? We'll move that, Councillor White, second. Councillor Sanjanko, any further discussion then? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, that's carried, thank you. Thank you for the work on this project, folks. Let's keep going. Okay, and any inquiries at this point? There'll be another opportunity. Correspondence, 11.1, correspondence from the ADICC. I guess.
proceed.
Yeah, just will receive. Councillor White, Councillor Sanjanko, all in favor? It's carried. 12.1, so we discussed this at Committee of the Whole earlier today, and what's needed here firstly is a resolution to give a unanimous consent resolution to give first, second, and third readings to the intercommunity business licensing bylaws. So ask for a leader of that first, please. Councillor Lumley, thank you. Second, Councillor Valeria. Okay, all in favor? So that's unanimous. And then the bylaw there is for first, second, and third reading then. So again, just ask for a mover of that as well. Councillor White, thank you. Councillor Valeria, all in favor? That's carried. 12.3, the revenue anticipation bylaw, and 12.4, raise fees and charges bylaws are here for final adoption. So I'll just ask for a motion to final adopt those two. Councillor White, Councillor Sanjanko. Further discussion, all in favor? That's carried. 12.5, the financial plan amendment bylaw for second and third reading, as is the drainage development cost charge expenditure bylaw, the road development cost charge expenditure bylaw, the water development cost charge expenditure bylaw, and the sewer development. So again, I'll just move all of those.
All 5.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor White, second then. Councillor Sanjanko, all of it in favor, and that's carried. New business, number 14, Councillor Lumley.
This comes about following the Sanchenko's, the Housing Committee, with respect to the property, the former RCMP building. I think what I'd like to do is maybe if we could move to make a recommendation or resolution to have staff move forward with the possible, I guess, transfer of that land from federal to municipal, I guess, to the town of Gibsons. Now it'd be based on, I guess, the town would have to seek the Squamish Nation, deal with them first for their approval, but and then go to the federal government and see if they'll transfer that land. And it would be specifically for the purposes of either low rental, affordable housing, or they did also talk about using the pre-existing building for maybe transition housing. So I'm not really sure. Wordsmith that or directed, maybe Emmanuel.
Okay, so what Councillor Lumley's alluded to, there's an opportunity here, I think, for collaboration between the municipality, the provincial government, the federal government, and possibly the Squamish band as well, to try to create something on that property that would be beneficial to the community in terms of some sort of, it remains to be seen what that would look like, but some sort of affordable rental housing or something that will improve the lot of people in our community that perhaps are not as well off as others. Something has to be scoped out, but I think what Councillor Lumley is saying here is we're asking to have staff explore what we need to do to see about acquiring that property for a project of that nature. Fair enough. Okay. Councillor White?
I'll second that, and I support this, so, but I would just be a little more open to, we can work with the federal government and they want to maintain ownership. I think for new government has revitalizing some of their programs. And
Clear enough? Okay. All in favor then? Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Councillor Lomley. Any inquiries? Any council reports? Councillor Sanjenko, getting ready for the beach.
Just a few things to report on. I was lucky enough to go with Councillor White and Mayor Rowe to the welcoming community last week, and we had a really delightful time with residents, and I just wanted to thank the group and hosting at the church. It was just a really lovely day. I had an experience of just practicing some English. Ina, who now lives in Gibsons, and it was amazing how well we actually did with her phone app. And that was a bit of an experience. Tomorrow, Councillor White and I are back again to our Regional Economic Development Task Committee, and I feel we're making progress. As we're asking for the kettlebell campaign with Salvation Army, which I'm trying.
Councillor Valeria, we welcome, and really glad to see you here, and let us know how you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor Rowe. I'm happy to be here, and I'm not going to report on anything specific, but I just wanted to, my heartfelt thanks to everybody in this room, council and staff particularly. Been away for the last few weeks, tending to my 2-year-old daughter who's being treated at BC Children's. So really appreciated support coming from the community. I'll be somewhat preoccupied for the next few months, for your indulgence, but I will be here most of the time. And we're optimistic. Well, actually, more importantly, our doctors are optimistic. Recovery will just take some time. Very much.
an extensive written report here. I'll just address a few issues. I mean, address it goes on my way to the beach, and I'm on my way to a CRD budget process. I'm just trying to provide council with as much information here that these items, and specifically I've collected some to get into the also there's a meeting focusing on libraries. I'll just highlight too the service of Adler, town resident on our solid waste management plan management advisory committee, EMAC. Let us know, Brian. I've actually been doing quite a lot of Michigan regional. Absolutely. Yeah, the number of I hear about getting emails or phone calls about the hot tub. Prep for the person to call, but so if you get any concerns about that, you can to shut down. Just some background on it. It's been shut down. I think it's sort of spring. Basis. So it cost about $110,000. It's possible we could expedite that process. So that's also a concern we should all be aware of, and which I mentioned here, is that when it is replaced, the whole pool may have to be shut down for a
Yeah. Yeah, only in government does a hot tub cost $110,000. You'd have to shut the whole pool down to replace it. Okay, thanks for that very thorough report. Councilor Ludwig, anything you want to add to that? And, yeah, I don't think anything for myself. You've already covered what we were at there the other day. And, yeah, so I think I'll just leave it at that. Just a motion to adjourn then. Councilor Lundy, Councilor White, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.